Peruvian President Pedro Castillo survived his second attempt of the second attempt of impeachment against him in less than a year, in only 8 months, after the Peruvian opposition essentially failed to get the enough amount of votes in the Congress to oust the radical left-wing leader. In a pretty poor and disappointing performance, opposition lawmakers only reached 55 of the 87 votes that was needed to impeach Pedro Castillo. The lawmakers in this country seeking to remove him from power had claimed, as we reported in a previous episode, that Pedro Castillo is subject of 3 different preliminary investigations into possible corruption, which under Peruvian law cannot proceed until he is out of office. In addition, there was a separate accusation from an alleged collaborator of Pedro Castillo who confessed that he is essentially part of a criminal group that basically receives money in exchange for public work. We need to remember that this is a pretty common corrupt practice here in Latin America. In almost, I'm not gonna say every single government, but this type of corrupt practice has happened in a lot of governments in this region of the world. In addition, we need to remember that a pretty significant element that enraged the opposition and was another reason why they wanted to impeach Pedro Castillo was one controversial remark that he made during an interview with CNN's Fernando del Rincón, where the Marxist-Leninist essentially said that he was willing to support Bolivia in its sea ambition. Essentially, we need to remember that Bolivia doesn't have any access to sea, so this has been a pretty significant geopolitical issue for this Andean country. However, this situation, it has always been said that this could somehow be quite negative for Chile's interest, and we need to remember that Peru, the alliance between Peru and Chile is definitely stronger than the one between Peru and Bolivia. So this was another reason why the opposition wanted to impeach Pedro Castillo. However, these opposition lawmakers also accuse him of permanent moral incapacity, which is essentially a term incorporating into Peruvian constitutional laws that many experts in this country and all around Latin America has said that it basically lacks an objective definition. In fact, the Peruvian Congress has used this definition, this permanent moral incapacity, 6 times since the year 2017 in order to try to remove presidents. Because we need to remember that Peru, despite the fact that it is a democracy, over the last few years it has turned into what many political analysts like to call a parliamentary regime, a government where there is not the same amount of power on the different branch, but we see more power in the legislative one. This is the reality of Peru nowadays. So the situation, while many people could think that it could somehow benefit Pedro Castillo, the truth is that this actually weakens his position. In fact, it is quite possible that this could end in the worst case scenario, which will be essentially to watch the left-wing leader getting way more radical, given the fact that he knows that the opposition, or he feels that the opposition will do whatever it takes to get him out of power. After all, he survived 2 different impeachment attempts. So we'll see what is going to happen in this country, and of course, we'll be informing you on this channel. Reporting from Medellin, Colombia, Luis Orozco, Newsweek.